My mother-in-law, Victoria, abruptly told me to leave the house after my husband secured a job overseas. This left my young daughter and me without a home, prompting us to seek refuge in the local park. Holding my 3-year-old in my arms amidst a backdrop of confusion and uncertainty about our future, our situation quickly escalated when a group of police officers approached and escorted us to the station amid a heavy downpour. I'm Grace, soon to be 37, and my life took a turn when I met my husband Jerry at work. After a year of dating, we married, and I chose to leave my job to focus on our family. 3 years ago, we welcomed our daughter Doris into the world. Initially, Jerry, Doris, Victoria, and I lived together comfortably. We initially rented a home, but following the death of Victoria's husband and her mobility issues due to knee problems, we decided to buy an apartment near public transport to accommodate her needs better. The apartment, equipped with an elevator, seemed a perfect fit for Victoria and was more affordable than a house. We invested in this property, securing a loan with a 37-year term. Jerry's job requires frequent travel, typically weekly trips to other states. Although we were assured that he wouldn't need to relocate permanently after purchasing our apartment, his constant absence places a considerable strain on me, especially with a toddler to care for. Initially, Victoria was supportive, but our relationship deteriorated, culminating in the current predicament where I found myself seeking shelter in a park, uncertain of what lay ahead for my daughter and me. Lately, Victoria has stopped assisting with the care of my daughter, Doris, and instead seems to be adding to my daily chores. For instance, she often leaves dirty dishes scattered around after meals and neglects to rinse cooking utensils, making them exceptionally difficult to clean later. Despite my requests for her to at least rinse them, she offers empty apologies and promises to improve, though she never does. I've noticed that she only rinses the dishes when my husband Jerry is home, suggesting that her negligence might be intentional when he's not around. Her actions extend beyond just the kitchen chores. There are times when she asks if I need anything from the store, and despite my response that I don't, she later claims she needs something once I'm already back. This has become a frequent inconvenience. Given Victoria's issues with her knees, I have always tried to accommodate her needs, but my patience is wearing thin due to her continuous difficult behavior. This situation started not long after we began living together and has been ongoing for years. When I confided in a friend about it, she suggested that Victoria might be bullying me and recommended talking to Jerry for support. However, I hesitated because Victoria, having no other family, might end up in a care facility if I raised the issue, and I didn't want to cause her distress. Despite my reservations, an incident made me reconsider my approach. One day, I planned to drop Doris off at my parents' house, where they suggested I stay the night. Although I was tempted, I felt uneasy about leaving Victoria alone, so, after a brief discussion with my parents, I returned to our apartment. Upon arrival, I realized I had forgotten my keys at my parents', which left me worried and stranded outside. This situation prompted me to think about the dynamics in our home and whether I should address the ongoing issues with Jerry after all. Then it struck me that Victoria was likely at home, so I decided to ring the intercom to get inside. I pressed the button and waited for her to respond, but there was no answer. Puzzled, I considered the possibility that she might have stepped out, so I lingered outside, hoping she would return soon. However, even after 3 hours, there was no sign of her. As darkness enveloped the area and my worry deepened, another resident appeared, and I seized the opportunity to follow them through the main entrance. Confident that Victoria was at home since she seldom ventured out at night, I tried the intercom again directly outside our apartment door. Still, no response came. I waited by the door, listening intently until I finally heard a faint noise from inside, confirming Victoria was indeed there. Despite several more attempts at the intercom, there was no movement from within. Feeling utterly defeated, I decided to check into a nearby motel for the night, planning to return home once Jerry was back from his business trip. When I recounted the incident to Jerry, he was understandably disturbed by the notion of Victoria locking me out, yet she dismissed it, claiming she might not have heard due to her age. However, her slight smirk suggested otherwise. Once back inside our apartment, I quickly grabbed my keys to fetch Doris from my parents' home. During our conversation, my parents offered comforting words and reassured me that their home was always open should things escalate beyond my tolerance. Their support moved me to tears, though I composed myself before heading back with Doris. Things with Victoria stabilized for a bit, but then the unexpected happened. Jerry's job transfer to another country was made permanent. He consulted me for my thoughts on the matter, marking a crucial point in our discussion about our future. I was at a loss for words when Jerry asked me about moving to Europe with him, considering the potential upheaval it might cause for our daughter Doris. After careful thought, I decided it was best for Doris and me to stay in the U.S. while Jerry relocated to Europe for his job. He was understandably concerned about us, but his demanding work schedule left him little time to dwell on the situation. It was just Doris, Victoria, and me at home, but I anticipated challenges with Victoria once Jerry was gone. Things took a sharp turn one stormy day when it was too dangerous to venture outside. Out of the blue, Victoria dropped a shocking suggestion. She stated bluntly that Doris and I should move out now that Jerry was no longer around. I was stunned and asked, "Excuse me, what do you mean?" To which she coldly replied, "Just what I said. I think it would be better if you and Doris found somewhere else to live. I'll take care of things here. I just don't feel comfortable with strangers in the house. It would be best if you left right away." Her words hit me hard. I had always made an effort to foster a harmonious living situation with Victoria, treating her like family despite our lack of blood relation. However, to her, it seemed that Doris and I were merely an inconvenience. Considering returning to my parents' house, Victoria's harsh tone intensified as she snapped, "Why don't you just leave already?" Before I fully grasped the situation, Doris and I were being forced out of our home without even a chance to collect our belongings. Despite my desperate knocks, Victoria refused to let us back in. Feeling lost and bewildered, I carried Doris through the relentless rain to a nearby park, seeking refuge under a shelter to escape the downpour. Ideally, I would have headed to a motel or back to my parents' place, but the abruptness of our eviction left me scrambling to find immediate shelter from the storm. Realizing I had left my wallet and phone inside the house added to my feeling of helplessness as I sat in the park, uncertain of what to do next. The rain continued to pour, and as time slipped by, I felt increasingly exhausted and cold. With darkness setting in and the chill intensifying despite it being summer, I worried about the health of my daughter, Doris, and myself. With limited options, I contemplated the daunting prospect of walking to my parents' house, which was about 4 hours away. As I was gathering my resolve, I noticed 2 beams of light cutting through the rain, police officers approaching. Before I could reach out to them for assistance, one of the officers called out to me, "Are you Grace? And is this little one Doris?" Surprised that they knew our names, I hesitantly confirmed. The officer then requested, "Please come to the station with us." Puzzled about why they would want us at the police station and if something was amiss, Doris and I followed them to their patrol car, shivering from the cold. The officers, noticing our discomfort, wrapped us in big towels and mentioned they had spare clothes for us at the station. Grateful but curious about how they knew to find us, I inquired about it. They assured me, "We'll explain everything once we're back at the station. For now, just try to relax." Too exhausted to press further, I soon fell asleep in the warmth of the patrol car. Upon waking, I found we had arrived at the police station. As I followed the officers inside, I was shocked to see Victoria and my uncle waiting for us. "Uncle, what are you doing here?" I asked, bewildered. He explained that Jerry had contacted him because he was concerned that I might be experiencing difficulties with his mother. Since Jerry was overseas, he had asked my uncle to keep an eye on things. My uncle revealed that he had seen us in the park earlier in the rain and had considered taking us in himself. However, he felt Victoria's actions were too severe and warranted police involvement, which is how the officers knew to look for us. Victoria had also been summoned to the police station. Sitting on a sofa, she glared at me, visibly perplexed and irritated about being there. "Why do I have to be here? My knee hurts, you know. If Jerry were here, none of this would be happening," she argued. Yet, the situation had unfolded precisely because Jerry had enlisted my uncle's help. During our conversation with the police, it became clear there might be legal consequences for Victoria's actions, and I was advised to consider hiring an attorney. Victoria, still defiant, downplayed her actions. "I just locked the door, nothing more." However, my uncle stepped in, emphasizing the gravity of her behavior. Throwing me and a small child out into a storm was not a minor issue. He also pointed out that I was the rightful owner of the house, a fact that took Victoria by surprise. She had assumed Jerry, being the head of the household, would be the owner, but she was mistaken. My uncle, who works in real estate, had secured a great deal on a condo, and Jerry had insisted it be put under my name, a decision I hadn't dwelled on much until now, but for which I was immensely grateful. Following my uncle's advice, I decided to engage a lawyer. The lawyer explained that evicting Victoria could be challenging, suggesting that placing her in a care facility might be the best course of action. I immediately called Jerry to update him. He was taken aback by the escalation of events and expressed his desire to return to address the situation properly. He also mentioned that he had been considering a care facility for Victoria, unaware of the ongoing drama. Despite the serious atmosphere at the police station, Victoria appeared nonchalant, casually munching on some crackers, seemingly unaffected by the gravity of the situation unfolding around her. Unable to return home with Victoria still there, I opted to stay at my parents' place until Jerry could come back from Europe. He was scheduled to return in a week, which gave me some time to consider our future steps. If Jerry did not support me in this situation, I was painfully aware that divorce might become the only viable option. In hindsight, I regretted not seeking advice earlier. 2 weeks later, Jerry came back from Europe and went directly to the house where Victoria was. I then moved back from my parents' place. Since Jerry had plans to return to Europe soon, we needed to discuss the situation thoroughly. "I heard some things from Grace's uncle. Is all of that true?" Jerry asked Victoria when I arrived. Victoria vehemently denied any wrongdoing, accusing me of plotting against her to have her evicted. "It's all lies. I haven't done anything. Grace is plotting something to evict me," she claimed. Jerry, whom I had hoped would support me, seemed uncertain and asked Victoria, "So, do you have any evidence to prove Grace is plotting something?" "No, of course not," she replied defensively. Then Jerry turned to me. "Grace, do you have any evidence?" I hesitated briefly, then handed Jerry a voice recorder I had been carrying. "What's this?" he inquired. The recorder contained several instances of Victoria's hurtful remarks and actions, not only when she kicked me out, but also when she insulted me in various other instances. As Jerry listened to the recordings, his expression changed visibly. The tapes captured Victoria saying things like, "You're such a worthless wife. I wonder why he even married you." Victoria scrambled to defend herself, claiming the recordings were taken out of context and represented just a one-time thing. However, as the recordings continued, it became clear that her verbal abuse was a repeated behavior, not an isolated incident. Jerry's hand trembled with tension and anger as he absorbed the contents. "Mom, what is this about?" Jerry demanded an explanation, but Victoria remained silent. "If you can't answer, then I have to believe this is all true," And if it is, I need to protect Grace and Doris. You understand that, right? Jerry's anger was palpable, a side of him I had not seen in all our years together. Victoria, seeing this new side of Jerry, looked frightened and was unable to respond. After numerous discussions and before Jerry's return to Europe, I made it clear that I could no longer live with Victoria, especially not with Doris in the mix. Jerry seemed to understand and leaned toward the idea of placing Victoria in a care facility. However, Victoria was strongly against this, complicating our discussions further. Despite her objections, I decided that the best course of action would be to sell the house, effectively making it clear that Victoria could no longer stay there. If you don't want to go to the facility, you'll need to find somewhere else to live, Jerry firmly told Victoria. She was resistant to the idea of selling the house, but it was a necessary step for our future plans. Doris and I had decided to move to Europe, and Jerry, regretting not being more present for his family, was eager to ensure we stayed together moving forward. Though I had reservations about living abroad, the prospect of having Jerry with us was comforting. Moreover, it would offer Doris a valuable opportunity to experience life in Europe at a young age. Selling the condo, which still carried a mortgage, became our only viable option. If we didn't sell, Victoria would have to manage the mortgage payments on her fixed income, which was not feasible. Considering her future, it was important for someone to assist her, but Victoria steadfastly refused to move into a facility. Reluctantly, we had to place her there forcefully. "I'm sorry, but I have to head back to Europe. Could you take care of any remaining procedures here?" Jerry asked before his departure. With assistance from others, I managed to finalize Victoria's admission into the facility. The staff promised to keep me updated on her condition, but it was clear she was struggling to adapt. She wasn't just feeling down, she was actively causing trouble for the staff and other residents. Before leaving for Europe, I visited Victoria to check on her, but she lashed out at me. "Why have you locked me up in this place?" she demanded, also complaining about the food, the beds, and the other residents. When I apologized to the staff, they were understanding. "It's okay," one of them reassured me. "We're used to this kind of behavior, just leave it to us. We'll keep you updated, and if anything happens, we'll let you know, so don't worry." Despite all the difficulties I had endured from Victoria when we lived together, I couldn't help but feel concerned as I headed to Europe. Upon my arrival in Venice, Jerry was waiting for me at the airport, and we proceeded to the apartment we had rented. It was a known fact that rents in Venice were much higher than in Oklahoma, but we were prepared to start anew in this new city. Since Jerry's company provides a housing allowance, we were fortunate enough to find a spacious and affordable apartment in Venice. The neighbors in our building are incredibly friendly, which has made settling in much easier, even though my French is still a work in progress. Just yesterday, one neighbor shared some wine and cheese with me, and in return, I offered them some homemade mac and cheese. My daughter Doris and I are both gradually learning French. Recognizing the limitations of self-study, I've enrolled in a language school. Also newcomers to Italy are my classmates. I've already made some friends and am truly enjoying my new life in Venice. Back in the States, my constant worries about Victoria often dampened my ability to fully enjoy social outings. Here in Venice, however, I can relish leisurely lunches just as I prefer. My only concern at the moment is Doris, who is still too young for kindergarten, as children here usually start in the year when they turn 6. I'm hopeful she will pick up enough French by then, and fortunately she seems to be catching on quite quickly. I'm contemplating finding a job once Doris starts preschool. While Jerry is supportive of me staying at home, living in Venice has sparked a desire in me to explore more opportunities. The ambitious and confident vibe of the city has ignited something within me. I've become friends with a waitress at a nearby cafe who hinted that there might be a job opportunity for me there. The cafe is popular not only among the USA community but also with many locals who are learning English. There may be challenges ahead, but since arriving in Italy, Jerry and I have been communicating much better. I feel more confident in expressing my feelings, and I believe that no matter what comes our way, we'll face it together as a family. Currently, I feel happier than I have ever been in my life, enriched by this new chapter we've embarked upon in Venice.